and a couple of tips on like how to start selective spending and sort of the points that we need to be at in order to be able to do it, right? Because if we're not yet at the phase where we have other things sorted out so that we know what we're spending on, then it's going to be a little bit more confusing. So just an introduction. I'm Raven. Hello. And I'm the founder of moneymind.global, which is an education platform. Really, it's an online course that is being built now on the topic of financial confidence and financial literacy, really beginners' first steps. So this is for people who either are new to this area, feel like they don't have any financial education at all, or just want a refresher on what I call the 5 pillars of financial stability that I created for our own family, for our own use when we were going through my husband building a startup. And I realized that I had a lot of gaps in my own financial knowledge. So I share those 5 pillars in this course. Moneymind.global is the website. You can go and have a look. You can sign up for when it's launched. And there's a lot of work going on and just me working on it. So thank you everyone for your patience and kindness as I build this fun and fantastic project that is going to be a social enterprise. It's currently, still in building. So it is being built with all of these social enterprise values in mind. I want this course to give back into the community. And originally I thought of creating it as a free course, but then I realized that this course is about money and needs to make money, because then the money can go back into the business and feed back into both employees and future affiliates and other people that are super fans and want to share and somehow gain in the growth of this spreading of the word. And so I realized that to have money built into this was really important. It's one thing to give things away for free, and it's quite another thing to build something that everyone can benefit from. I realized quite strongly that that's exactly what I wanted, to build something that others could gain from and could grow together over time. So thank you everyone for joining. Today's topic is healthy money habits, selective spending. And I'm Raven. Oh, hi Daniel. Thank you everyone for joining on every platform that you're on. If you can only see some of the comments, it's because I'm broadcasting on a fantastic platform called haps.tv. If you haven't heard of it, it's a multicasting platform that is also a very exciting platform that's it's a social media and community platform, but it has all of the things built into it that a lot of older platforms just didn't have. So it's a completely modern software thing. I don't know. I don't know how to say it exactly because I'm not in tech, and I'm going to mess this up so horribly. And I'm sorry for everyone in house who's hearing this and they're like, oh, this is not right, Raven. Fine. Yes, I know. I'm completely butchering it. The point is that Haps is fantastic if you're a broadcaster and you want to earn money from your broadcasts. So when I was on Periscope, which was owned by Twitter, and that closed down this year. And I think what a lot of people wanted was to be able to broadcast and make money. And you can do it on YouTube and you can do it on other platforms, but it's still a little bit like, it's still a bit, not glitchy, but clunky. Like it's still kind of like, oh, how do I do this? And how do I make this work really well? And Haps just offers all these solutions. You can earn coins in the actual app itself. You earn coins just by signing in. You can convert those coins into actual money. You can give those coins into the community and support other broadcasters like you. It's really like a nurturing community instead of just, I'm creating content and I get money from it. You can actually give it back out into the community as well. So that's really, really cool. And I love that concept, because that's very much what my business will be about as well, putting the money back into the hands, pockets, mouths, and families of people who are involved in the community. So that's really what I think money is for. And, I had to have a long journey on coming to terms with my own thoughts, relationships about money. And just, sorry, because I'm going to be all over the place today, I can just tell. So just to let you know, if you are seeing only some of the comments that come up and hear me replying to some of the comments, but you can't see them, it's because Facebook will only show Facebook, and Twitch will only show Twitch, and Twitter will only show Twitter. So if you want to see all the comments, you can go over on haps.tv, but otherwise I'll try and read them out so that we can respond and chat a little bit. But you will hear me sort of talking a little bit to comments that are mentioned as we proceed. So just a heads up on that. So disclaimer, I'm not a financial industry person. I have dyscalculia, which is numbers dyslexia. Hi, Yikes Factory. Business life is going well, thank you. It is good, slow. Building a business is super crazy slow, but really exciting and really well. I have so much support from all the broadcast community, as well as other people that are around in the world, in my peripheral world, that are really, really, really supportive of this. And I think the fact that my business that's being created, moneymind.global, is a social enterprise that's built to give back. As Daniel said, the message of financial literacy and basic money confidence is necessary in the public education system. It's like, why are we not taught this stuff? Why am I having to build a business to cater to this? I love it. I mean, thank you. But really, if this issue wasn't in the world, I would be super, super thrilled. I mean, hopefully at some point I will be obsolete, because hopefully the work that I will do and the work that other people will do as well will make this topic like not something that's relevant anymore. And I would love for people to be able to say, financial literacy, what's that? Because I already know this stuff so well. And obviously, we can't get to a point where everybody always has the same views or has the same experiences, but I want far less than is currently like the standard. So I think the OECD, I think Hong Kong tested with the highest financial literacy, and it was still something like 60%, which frankly is pretty shocking. Other countries around the world have under 50%. And this is, some of the largest economies and just countries that you think, why? Why don't we have the basics of financial literacy taught to us when we're young, when it matters, when we really are able to absorb it, not when we're like, oh, we're teenagers, we don't care, or, oh, we're young adults, we're too busy with our new jobs. Like, why aren't we taught this at specific stages in our development when we are going to be able to absorb these types of principles? And that's what I started to find very frustrating, because the fallout from not having that education and from being too scared to address it was so heartbreaking for me to see. People who were divorced, and their husbands had just left them and they'd never managed their money. Other people who they were in situations where they just had all their money sitting in a bank account, and they said, oh, when I get a partner, my partner will just manage it. And like depreciating year on year, and they just never invested in anything at all, just sitting on cash that was going down in value as a result of not knowing like how to make a basic investment, how to just do that type of stuff. And so just to be clear, I will not be going into any deep dives on anything that is remotely like advice related or topical in terms of what different stocks are doing, because this is an overview business. This is an introductory first steps, like just talking about the awareness of the 5 basic pillars. And those are money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. It's really just saying, when we start, these are the 5: money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills, and legacy. These are the 5 areas that we need to have awareness of, confidence in, just be aware of. Like, if I know about my money mindsets, I can say, do I want to keep the money mindsets that I developed between 5 to 7 years old? Actually, sorry, I think it's 3 to 7. Do I want to keep the stuff I saw when I was 3 to 7 years old? Do I still want that running my life? Savings. Do I know how much to save? Do I have a saving habit? Do I spend everything I make? What is my saving style and type? Budgeting. Do I avoid budgeting? Do I budget really well? Do I budget a bit too well and not spend anything? Or am I scared of investing because I'm super saving? what is my budget type? Am I a spender type? And then I don't want to budget because I'm scared it will mean I can't buy anything I like. Like, what is our budgeting type? And how can we find a budget that works for us? Even if it's a zero budget, which means that we can just have our our money straight from like when we get our income, the no zero budget or the no budget. You have the budget where you have your necessities straight out, your savings straight out, and spend the rest. Like, that's it. It's so simple, and anyone can do it, especially spenders. So that type of budget is a type of budget, but knowing and choosing is where we want to get to. Even if it seems like, oh, well, I kind of do that anyways. Good. But did you know you were already doing that? Were you aware that that's what you were doing? And so, yes, tick. The budgeting area is ticked off. Like, this is what these pillars are for. Is this ticked off? Good. Yes. Is this ticked off? Good. Is this ticked off? Good. Investing. What is my investing style? What is my risk profile? What am I comfortable investing in? What do I not want to invest in? Like, am I very risky an investor? For example, I'm very high risk and I'm very aggressive, and that's not for everybody. And I will just full blown be a very non-followable example of the type of investor that you need to know your style and have your style, and then be comfortable with that. So for someone like me who's a very aggressive, like high risk investor, who I still like take a lot of factors into account, but I'm not an expert. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like gambling essentially. But I then will benefit from having, with this like risky type, I'll benefit from having really boring underlaying foundational things in my portfolio. So in the CABS category, the CABS, cash, alternative, bonds, and stocks, for someone who's like me, who would be more inclined to be in riskier areas, it may be best for me to choose to balance with more bonds and things like that, because I will naturally choose to buy more of the others. So that's good to know. It's also good to know like what type of portfolio weighting is right for us in our times of life. What kind of, like, for example, a Vanguard model portfolio, like which stage of life are we in our life cycle planning? Which portfolio may suit us? If we want to just Google Vanguard model portfolios, you'll see like there's like 5 or 6 portfolios, and it's just standard portfolios that people can have as weightings for their investment journey. It's just saying these are the type of options that are out there. So Daniel has just said, he's somewhat high risk and he doesn't have bonds in his portfolio at all. So that's also good to know. Do we want to be high risk with no bonds? Do you want to be someone like me who is high risk but would benefit from having that balance, because I know I'm really, really high risk and I'd rather have that sort of tempering of that extremity? Or are you someone who is very risk adverse and would rather have other things that are more secure and stable in your portfolio? So that is good to know about just yourself. We'll all be different. Like Daniel, me, Yikes Factory, we don't all wear the same type of clothes, okay? And frankly, that's probably a good thing, because I think, frankly, I would probably look really bad in all of your clothes. Like, no offense, but I have to wear a certain type of clothes that suit me. Otherwise, I just look really bizarre. I look like I've been dressed from like the Mandalorian series, and I'm like one of those people like creeping around in the background. People are like, wow, you really need to get that tailored in at the waist or something, right? I can't wear like normal fitting clothes. It looks too weird. So so investment style. What is our investment style? Just to know about ourselves. Wills and legacy. Do we have it done? Okay, that's the simplest one, right? Do we have it done? If we're over 18, we need to have our wills done, and we need to have a legacy file that our will is in our office or in our drawer or just somewhere in our house. Like that's the simplest one. Just call your lawyer, get them to sort it out, and put it in a drawer. And there are other ways to do it where people do it in much less secure ways, where they print things out and they get things for their jurisdiction. But those types of things, if we get them wrong, can cause so much mess. And sometimes it's just better to just put the money into getting a lawyer to do it properly, and then we don't have to worry about it. And that's just a way to tell our family we love you, and we're protecting our assets and the executors and the people that we love, just in case. Because why risk that? Like, we get insurance for stuff. Like, this is definitely a type of coverage protecting, because if you have like $10 million and you have no will, it's like, what, that money your family's going to have to say, oh hey, we have $10 million, and they're like, nah, you don't. They did. You don't. And they're like, but we're their family. Like we're the wife and the kids, or the husband and the kids. And like that, like, that's our money. We need to live on that. We need to buy food. Like that's our portfolio. No, you don't. They do. And now you have to prove that you somehow have right to that $10 million. And you're like, and then you have to go through that process on top of everything else, which if you love your family, just get a will. I'm just going to go ahead and say it, guys. Just get a will. Because that process is called probate, and I consider probate, prove it. Prove it that you have the right to do this. And it's like, oh my gosh, I have so much other stuff that is tragic, horrible, and devastating, and now I have to prove it. The stories that I've heard of probate are just horrible, horrible. And you don't want it, and I don't want that for you. So I'm going to go ahead and say, just get your will. Okay, you just go, like, you talk to people about probate, you will get a will the next week. You will be like, oh my gosh, no, and it's hard to understand. Because, you know, like life, we all live forever. That's why all of us are like 5,000 years old and no one's ever died in the history of the world. Just get a will. It's really important, and it's good to have there, and then you have it, and that's there, and then that's all you need to do. Like, you just need to do it one time. It's like, hey, if I could just like exercise one time and I'm fit for the rest of my life, like, why would you not do that? It's like, so yeah. Anyhow, so get a will. So those 5 again: money mindsets, savings, budgeting, investing, wills and legacy. This is what we talk about on moneymind.global. And that's the website, www.moneymind.global. We're launching the social enterprise based on my experience plugging the leaks in my own financial knowledge as we went through this journey on our own when my husband was building a startup. We just both decided that it was the right time for him to go into building this amazing fintech startup, which is very, very cool. And I'm so old. So as soon as I heard the concept, I was like, oh yeah, you definitely have to do that. It's amazing. I can't talk about his work, but we definitely were all up on getting on board. And then going through the process, it was very tough. It was a very tough process. Just emotionally, I think both of us had been working from quite young ages, very full time and very like high level in our respective industries. And as a result, we were just sort of used to like normal life and kind of like stability and things like that. Nope. So I managed to create this plan to make myself feel a little bit more like calm and like, okay, I've got these boxes ticked. Even if everything else feels uncertain right now, I know these are covered. I know I got my own back. And I know that this is great for our family and can also be used long term as we get out of things and as we keep moving forward. And that's what turned out to happen, is that once we started moving forward, I was like, wow, okay, this is actually a really good little plan that I've created that I didn't realize also overlaps with the OECD guidelines for financial literacy for youths. Okay, so this is OECD recommends that this is taught for teenagers like 15 to 17 or 18, which I wasn't taught. I haven't spoken to anybody who, sorry, because my eyebrows are doing like sort of, control your angry eyebrows, Raven. So I wasn't taught angry eyebrows. And I haven't spoken to anyone else who has been taught either in schools. So deep breathing, Kung Fu Panda, inner peace, inner peace, inner peace face. I feel that these areas, these 5 areas, if we know them, we can go ahead. They're just for confidence, really. They're just checklist, confidence. The course is 5 pillars on the website. It's still being built. Yeah, I'm so sorry for the delays. But it's five pillars. Well, it's still being built at this time. If you look at the time of this broadcast, if you're looking at like 2 years from now, I'll be like, oh, okay, we already like got like 20 courses, and it's all like children's books and everything. But yeah, at the time of this, it's still in the journey. So if you're here at this point, thank you for being part of the journey. Yay. So exciting. So exciting. Also impatient. But yes, these 5 pillars, when you've got this checklist done, the course will cover just going into a bit of a deeper dive on each of these areas with just some things I learned, some tips I use, some hacks that I have. And that is really all you need. If you've got this, then you have got the foundation to be able to say, oh, I've got the confidence to move forward. Because if you have these, your financial confidence should, as a result of knowing that you have these, be pretty stable, right? A lot of us are missing an area and we haven't really had it in such a cohesive package. 5 fingers, 5 pillars. So this is what people, I think, could benefit from knowing, and why I created MoneyMind.global, so that people could have access to it, really, and just be like, oh, okay, great, that was easy, good, now I'm going to take the next steps to build whatever I want to build in my life and to have that stable foundational footing. So that's what I love about these 5 pillars and why I decided to create it into a business and then share this. So one of these ties in with the topic of today, which, wow, I have not got to yet. I'm so sorry, everyone. Selective spending. So selective spending is part of this all, and I can't really say which areas you would see it the most in, the budgeting or investing or savings, because surprisingly, if you consider selective spending, right, what it is I love that thing and I kind of like that thing, but I don't really care about it. But I spend the same amount of money on those two things. It's saying, I don't need to spend the money on this. Like, can I just get rid of it? So can I be ruthless about the things that I don't need to spend money on and really spend that money on this instead? So Daniel has made some comments that I rambled through, sorry. But one of the interesting things about being selective with our spending, increasing our money confidence, is that we start to get more aware of ourselves. So Daniel said that since he's in his 30s, he's not as fearful of a stock market crash. And that's also knowing our personalities and knowing what stage we're at on our journey, right? And so it's up to us to find the information, as Daniel says, that, you know, we can find a lot online, which is why this course has been created online, so that people can find it. And then my job is to promote it so that people can find it, and then they can have better lives, hopefully, as a result, if they feel like any of this is useful or helpful, because it's not advice, it's just sharing of my own personal knowledge and information on my journey. So the reason why it's called Money Mind is that it's a mindset thing. One mindset is being, as Daniel says this perfectly, much less ramblingly than me. So selective spending is a mindset thing, and why also Money Mind is the name of this course, because it's about mindsets largely, and then behaviors and habits, less about numbers. It's kind of like money not maths, or money without maths. It's looking at the behaviors that we can affect to have a better relationship with our money or have better results from our money, because the numbers will be there. And if we're not a numbers person like me, like I have dyscalculia, I can't count, right? So this is like not an area I can really like work on being good at. If you aren't great at numbers, then it's great to know that it is really about the behaviors. We can affect the behaviors. We can just change our behaviors, and we can consider that, you know, money can buy material things, or money can buy security and freedom, as Daniel has said. And selective spending is starting to make those bigger choices in our day-to-day life. Like if we start to do, say, the budgeting part, and we haven't done it before, and we decide to take action to start budgeting by just tracking our daily expenses. So the first thing we do if we've never done budgeting before is we track our daily expenses. Just write it down in a notebook, write it down in notes, what we've bought and the price, and then at the end do a little tally. So the tally at the end of each day. And then at the side, you can work out, you know, each day, add up the total at the end of the month, and you'll see the amount that goes out. And that is a really great start. So all you do, you don't make any other changes, just track. That's it. When we start doing that, then we start to notice that at the end of that week, say if we added up all the days in the week, all the days total in the week, and we have that end number, we might be like, I'm seeing Starbucks come up a lot. Like, no offense to Starbucks, but sorry, if we're spending, $100 a week at Starbucks, we may start thinking, whoa, I can buy a bag of Starbucks and have this at home. I could still have the thing I love in a different way. Is that something that might work a little bit better for me in terms of my spending? Or do I love the whole Starbucks experience so much that I definitely choose that? And that's awesome. That's what we want with selective spending. We want to choose things that we super, super love. So, for example, I buy my clothes. This is not some random sponsored plug. I mean, hopefully at some point it could be, but no. I buy my clothes on ASOS. So ASOS is an online retailer, and it puts all these different brands together, and it's like an online marketplace just for clothes. But now it's got these different products as well, like Charlotte Tilbury and stuff like that. I buy it on ASOS. I have my clothes come to my house. I try on what I want, what's going to fit, and then I just send what I don't want back, and it's free returns. So I can test out clothes that I think I might like, but really they're not my style. And then I also am streamlining how I'm choosing my clothes. So because my brand is white and turquoise, I'm now just buying white stuff. So that really streamlines having a lot of clutter and junk. Like, is this in alignment with my brand and what I will actually wear in my day? So I'll have white stuff, and I'll sometimes change up like my trouser color. But really within only like 3 or 4 colors. So I'm like, okay, you know what? I actually don't need to be spending as much money as I was by just trying things or buying in shops or feeling that kind of like, oh, yay, I'm going to buy this feeling. I can actually look online and see what would be practical. And I realized that I didn't need to be buying like designer clothes. I didn't need to be buying that type of thing because I just want to use them to death and then have them be practical. I want things that are comfortable, that are practical. You want to find, if you're going to use, say, like with selective spending, it's also being selective in other areas as well. Selective in how we're spending our time, energy, our attention, our thoughts. So if we're going to choose, like, say, a budgeting app, we want a budgeting app that will be the most efficient for us. I use iExpense. Daniel uses Dave Ramsey's app, Every Dollar. And a side note on that, if you have debt, student loan debt, or are really struggling in that type of situation and you watch this video and haven't heard of Dave Ramsey, then Google Dave Ramsey. And he is really a very big advocate of talking about student loan debt. He has his own strategy, his own style, his own unique way that's different to my way. And he is very prolific in his help and information sharing about real life examples of student loan debt, student loan triumph, student loan payoff, and how to balance out life and how to create a better balance from overspending in our financial life. So Dave Ramsey on YouTube, he's also got, he's very, very big in America if you haven't heard of him. So choosing what we want to use, choosing how we want to spend, and also knowing our style. So say Daniel sounds a little bit more like a saver in terms of not needing to spend loads of money for no reason, but I'm more of a spender. So my background was in fashion, and I developed these spending habits as a result of whatever personal issues, thinking money would buy happiness, having, depression in the past, and trying to kind of claw my way out of it with the wrong choices. And so my spender type was not great in that time of life when I was struggling. And we'll see what type we are. So savers, when they're stressed, will start to save a lot more and be very risk adverse, adverse. Yeah, in terms of averse. Wait, sorry, words. With investing when times are tough, right? And spenders will potentially, not always, obviously, with either type, but will potentially spend more. So it's really good to know our type and be able to align that type selectively with whatever budget we think will work. So for someone like Daniel, it might be like a zero-sum budget may work for him. I have tried this, and as a spender, it did not work for me. But I had to figure out what was going to work for me, and that turned out to be closer to the 30-20-50 budget, which is Elizabeth Warren's Harvard bankruptcy expert budget that she creates to get people basically out of the debt cycle. So the 30-50-20 budget is where you are 50% on necessities, 30% on saving or spending, and 20% on saving and spending or spending. So for example, if you were spending more, so you'd have aim for 50% on necessities, 30% on spending, and 20% for saving. Then if you were able to get your spending down a little, you may end up 50% on necessities, 30% on saving, and 20% on spending. But, it doesn't have to go that way. You don't have to just like get better and better at that. You could, in terms of changes, right? It's just about finding what works for us. We don't have to necessarily be like working towards, I say better and better, I mean just changes really. But we don't have to be working towards having like less and less and less spending, because selective spending is about choosing what we want to spend on in our lives. And if there's a certain amount that we love to spend, then for example, I will spend on ASOS and I'll buy tops that are, like 20, 30 bucks, or like, Hong Kong dollars, like $100, or like 10 bucks. On sale, and I'll just wear it like, like my whatever tops that I'm wearing, like River Island and other just random brands. And that's fine. I love them. I wear them all the time. I have blouses from them. They're ASOS brand, or, like 10 bucks, 20 bucks. And I absolutely adore them. I wear them to death. And then, I recycle them. Sorry, with the Salvation Army, I donate them for reuse. And my shoes, however, so I bought loads of shoes in the past and I barely wear any. So I realized, actually, I really like this particular brand of shoes. It's quite expensive. Okay, super expensive. And so I buy sneakers from this brand now. And I'll allocate money and I'll be like, okay, this month I'm buying these shoes. And they're crazy expensive. But if you look at the cost per wear, I make that choice given the situation I'm in, and also based on the fact that if I buy $100 pair of shoes and wear them one time, the cost per wear on that shoe is $100. If I buy like $1,000 shoe, or sorry, $100 shoe, and I wear it 100 times, the cost per wear on that shoe is $1. That is 100 per wear versus $1. And so it makes more sense to buy the thing that I will wear more, even if it's more expensive, because the cost per wear means that it will be better value in terms of purchasing power, what I have spent that money on, blah, blah, blah. So I will choose that type of selective spending. And we can do this in any area, right? Is it really important for me to have a really fancy car? Or can it just be a normal car or an older car? Like I selectively spend, I will not buy a new car. I'm not a car person in terms of needing new technology. I will also not buy new technology sometimes. So with my Mac, I had to replace my Mac. I've had my Mac Apple Pro for like 10 years. And why? Why replace it? I don't need to replace it. It's working fine. I've just had it, refurbed and tweaked and things like that to keep going. And it's doing great. But I started editing some things and it was getting a little bit slow. And so I needed to buy a new computer. So of course, I'm not going to buy a new MacBook. I'm going to go to the Apple store and get what's called a refurbished Mac, which is like a pre-loved Mac that Apple has approved. And so you get it for cheaper. It's already tested and approved as working by Mac. So then I have a full working computer for slightly less. And why would I pay, a few thousand more in Hong Kong dollars, or like a few hundred more, if it doesn't make any difference to me? So that's what selective spending is, how we would apply it and how we would think about it, and how I think about it as well. Because, if we have a car and we drive it to its last dying day, awesome. We're used to that car. Why spend money on something that we don't really care about? And sometimes selective spending is going to bleed out into other areas of life when we really start to get more practiced at it, where we will find that we start to be more selective spending about, for me right now, where I spend my emotional energy. Now that's kind of interesting, and we'll cover that in a different thing. But basically, it's saying, what do I get upset at, mad at? What do I emotionally engage with? Because that is burning energy that I want to be spending on other things. Essentially, that I want to be spending building my business and focus on my work and staying in that kind of creation zone instead of reaction zone. So for a lot of us who have struggled with mental health or had things like that that we've had to progress through or are even dealing with, it can be sometimes useful to look into what's called mindsight. I've forgotten, sorry, the guy's name who created mindsight. But if you look into mindsight, it's about having a bit more eyes on what's going on inside our heads and making sure that we are, clearing that up like a garden. We have to do weeding. We have to maintain habits. We can't just leave the garden there like to grow like a billion weeds and be like, wow, our garden is like super crazy overgrown. It's like, yeah, you didn't do anything to maintain it, but you didn't know maybe. And so now you know. Now you know. It's like you just got to maintain it. So I have all these different things that I do to maintain and balance and keep my mental health as well as it can be, because I was a chronic ruminator, which is when you think things over again after they've happened. I don't know if it's an introvert problem or what, but or even to assess whether I could do things better. But yeah, it just wasn't helpful or useful. So I said, okay, as soon as I realized this was a thing, I was like, okay, that's a thing. I'm going to immediately take action to adjust it. So what I need to do is anytime I have a thought, I ask, well, not anytime I have, but anytime I have a thought that triggers an emotion, makes me feel weird, bad, or funny. Not funny, haha, but like, anytime I have one of those thoughts, I clock it immediately. I'm like, I see you. And then, is this useful? Is this helpful? If it isn't, boink, doubt bucket. There's a doubt bucket garbage bin that sits by my feet, imaginary, of course. I don't carry a bucket around by my feet. And the thought that's not useful or helpful, boink, goes into the doubt bucket. I take it into the doubt bucket and plunked into the doubt bucket. Sometimes if I'm having very strong emotions, I have a little fire in the doubt bucket. So it just like, boink, just incinerates, boink. And then I'll keep going with whatever I'm doing. And if it keeps coming up every single time, boink, boink, the first time I started doing this, for the first few days, all day was the doubt bucket. And I realized it was really undermining my own confidence, thought process, taking up a lot of my emotional space. Like now, my bandwidth is much freer for what I want to be doing. So much clearer. And my life is better as a result. So when we put a selective spending mindset around our money, we can also start to put a selective spending mindset, once it's practiced, around other areas of our life. So for me, that was thought, and now it's now at the next stage of emotions. So if I feel an emotion that doesn't like serve me in this direction, I immediately clock it and think, do I need to be engaging with this? So my husband does something annoying. Well, our partner is always going to do something annoying. Our partner does something annoying, and I feel like, I think, is that helpful? Is that useful? And I just stop it. It's like, no. So now I'm able to do that. But it started with selective spending in my money. And that was what I found quite interesting about this whole process, is that when we get into looking after our money and being aware of our money mind, our money self, our money wellness, our money relationship, it starts to actually affect our relationship with ourselves. Because how we deal with our money is also a type of self-respect reflected in how we are looking after our future. And that part is the interesting bit, and why I decided that when I was going to, people had told me for years that I should do coaching or life coaching or something like this, and I'll probably do a life coaching qualification, hopefully from Cambridge University, I think. But I thought, if I was to do that type of thing, that sounds really great, but the impact isn't quite big enough. I want a big impact. And once I realized that the confidence we can develop in the rest of our lives as a result of being more confident with our money or personal finances, and not just the money, the decisions, even if our money doesn't really change, if we have better eyes on our decisions and we have better application of discipline in this area, knowing ourselves that we are doing this for ourselves and we are respectfully making the right choices for our lives, that does something really great to our confidence. That does something really great for our self-esteem, because then we are looking after ourselves how every deepest part of us wishes we had been loved and looked after. It starts to heal a lot of stuff that is inside. And plenty of us, we are well loved, we are well looked after, but life is tough. Life has challenges. We may be a kid and remember being bullied. We may have, people say things that just suddenly struck us and had an impact on our minds, or how we thought. People might have called us stupid. People might have, even our friends might have said something just off the cuff, and it sat with us. When we start to look after ourselves in this area that we know is quite important, it can start to really resonate with other parts of that. Oh, I'm looking after myself. This is great. This is important. This is different. And that kind of feeling can start to clear. It starts to clear that garden as well. It starts to say, oh, well, now I'm kind of eyes on that clearing this area also had a side effect of clearing parts of the areas of the garden. You're like, hey, that looks quite nice. I might do more of that. And that's when we start to have the confidence grow to do more of that same self-care. This area is just financial literacy, and it's an area of life that is about self-care as well. Are we looking after our money? Are we looking after ourselves? And are we doing it for the right reasons? Right? Are we looking after ourselves because we know that this is the right thing to do, to be responsible and to take care of ourselves and to take care of our family if we want? I say if we want. Of course, we have to take care of our family, but I say if we want because it's good to know that we are doing this because we are creating money and we are using it in a healthy way. And this cycle of us creating and us using something healthily, like food, right? Growing food and then eating food in a healthy way, it is an extended effect that we want to look after people we love. But if we're just using it as the primary, that can sometimes, it can sometimes be from a less confident place, because then we're doing it out of need to look after people or for other reasons perhaps. But it's always really important to look after family as long as we know that we are doing things from a good place of knowing that what is most important is our relationship with ourself. Because, say, even if we were religious and we were to think of our relationship with ourselves and our God and our community, there is definitely that link, like we and God and the community, but we have to look after this. We have to look after this journey and this growth in all areas, in our health, in our money, in our food, in the way we spend our time, in the way we interact with people. Everything ties together. It boils down to looking after ourselves and making selective choices about what's best for us, our families, our community, and being able to contribute back to our own lives while looking after ourselves, right? So we spread it out and feel the love and spread and feel, we're community creatures. We're built to look after each other, really. And fight a bit, but that part we don't really want to focus on. But the part of the nurturing and the caring we want to bring forward, and we want to make more clear, and we want to get to know ourselves and what is important to us. And that's what selective spending can be helpful to get eyes on for ourselves. So I hope that was helpful to someone out there, anyone out there who's watching. Thank you for watching the replays. Thank you for watching live. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, everyone, for contributing. And Daniel, I really appreciate that you jump on and have all these comments that are really great insights. And I love that the reason why I'm live broadcasting is because I love that people share their different experiences on live broadcasts. And it means that we can have a very diverse range of styles. Daniel said he's high risk, but also a saver. And that is very different to other people who are going to be savers who aren't high risk, or spenders who are high risk, or any of the other millions of types of people who are out there who will have different styles on their own. So that's quite interesting and really, really great to have you here. Thank you so much, Daniel, for contributing. Thank you, everyone else, for joining. And I'm going to jump over onto Reddit to try broadcasting there. So let's see how that goes. First time, wish me luck. See you later.